Genders Games, haha! Ladies and gentlemen, as I have now reached 50,000 subscribers, it is time to do the most requested and loved guide on the channel. I speak, of course, of Trundle, the Troll King. He is the strongest, smartest, most handsome champion there is. Why would you disagree? Is there a problem? No? Then let's learn how to Trundle.
You got a problem with me? Join the club!
Trolling aside for a moment, Trundle is a tanky fighter, the quintessential bruiser, built for the top lane or the jungle. He excels at controlling the battlefield through buffs for himself, debuffs for his enemies, and even creating his own terrain. While he is strong all around, Trundle is particularly powerful against teams with a single tank, as he can render them utterly useless, and against movement speed reliant champions, as his slows and terrain will keep them in clubbing range. Trundle's passive is King's Tribute. Pay fealty to your ruler. The troll saps the life force from his dying foes. Anytime an enemy unit dies near him, champion, minion, or monster, Trundle is healed for a percentage of that creature's maximum health. This passive gives Trundle some fantastic and subtle sustain, keeping him topped off throughout his jungle clear, during laning phase, and keeping him alive all the longer in team fights. And he doesn't have to do the killing either, it just has to die. Keep this one in mind whenever you fight, as even a dying minion may be enough of a boost to keep him going. With his Q, Trundle does his best Scruff McGruff impression and takes a bite out of crime. Or law enforcement, whoever's in his way really. Chomp is an attack modifier, causing his next basic attack to deal bonus physical damage and slow the target by 75% for a brief moment. More importantly, the bite increases Trundle's attack damage significantly for the next 8 seconds, and his opponent loses half that amount for the same duration. And, on top of all that, Chomp resets his attack timer, letting him get that bite in immediately after his last strike. That debuff helps make Trundle an extremely powerful duelist, turning even the hardest hitting foe into a declawed kitten. Hope you don't mind, Tryndamere, but we've replaced your sword with a wiffle bat. Have fun with that. With its short cooldown and cheap cost, Chomp is very powerful, especially in the early game when you can more often get into one-on-one engagements. So, take it at level 1 and max it out first. The Troll King's W is Frozen Domain. He declares a large area of the terrain his, coating it with ice for 8 seconds. And you can bet the troll will fight tooth and nail for what he's decided he owns. While within his frozen domain, Trundle is massively buffed, increasing his movement speed, attack speed, and healing and regeneration from all sources. And yes, that includes his passive and his ultimate when we get to it. Even potions benefit. Frozen Domain is great, and you'll want to turn it on whenever you do any fighting at all. Strategic placement will allow you to round corners and keep fighting on it. While super powerful, it relies more on having stats to boost by a percentage rather than the flat bonus Chomp gives you. Therefore, you'll probably want to max it out second, once you've got more levels and items to work with. Now we get tricksy. Trundle's E summons a pillar of ice at a spot he chooses, erupting from the ground and acting exactly as normal terrain for the next 6 seconds. Enemies caught on top of the pillar as it emerges are knocked back briefly, and any enemy trying to walk around it are slowed significantly. This is the Troll King's premier source of field control, blocking off entrances, exits, and escape paths alike. This can separate opponents or peel for your allies. Take this extremely strong spell early, but as the only thing that changes with level are the slow and the cooldown, max it out last so you can focus on sustain and damage. However, if you find that you are using the spell frequently and have sufficient items not to need Frozen Domain's bonuses immediately, max it out second. With maximum cooldown reduction and max ranks, you can have a pillar up almost all the time. You might also consider taking your first point at level 2 for added safety in lane, regardless of when you max it out. And finally, what is a king if he cannot subjugate those around him? Trundle chooses a target and decides he wants what's theirs. Su casa es mi casa, eh? He drains the life force from an opponent, dealing magic damage equal to a percentage of their max health, healing himself for the same amount, and stealing 40% of their armor and magic resistance. Half of the stats are drained immediately, and the other half over 4 seconds. After that, the bonus defenses decay slowly over 4 seconds for both Trundle and his victim. This is why Trundle excels against single tank teams. Their only source of defense becomes yours. High damage, a super awesome buff, a debuff, and on a short cooldown all on one skill. Take a point in this one every chance you can. Trundle has a number of summoner spells he works fantastically with. If you're jungling, you'll of course want to take Smite. Both Flash and Ghost are very useful for mobility. Flash gives you that always awesome blink, but Ghost lets you cover much longer distances, and considering how much damage the troll can take, there's really no concern with taking a few extra hits along the way while he chases or flees. In top lane, Teleport is fantastic, letting you hop across the map to suddenly appear in team fights. Ignite is also a solid skill as a top laner, giving you even more power as a duelist. For runes, grab attack damage marks, scaling armor or scaling health seals, scaling magic resistance glyphs, and your choice of attack damage, attack speed, or movement speed quintessences. The defenses are pretty straightforward. As tanky as he is, all those resistances couple with his regeneration to keep him alive for a long time. Get the health ones if there's very little physical damage on the other team. The damage marks are pretty standard for Trundle, giving him a strong early boost to last hitting and the bullying he can do. The quints depend on which bonus you prefer most. The damage scales really well with your Q. The attack speed lets you use the bonus damage from it more often, and the movement speed lets you roam faster and keep up with targets you're chasing. Your pick. As for masteries, I prefer 9-21-0, making him as tanky as can be. Note the oppression mastery we take. While not a standard pick for most, consider that you will be slowing enemies very often with your bite and the pillar. With this in mind, you receive a lot of free damage reduction from this one. The second wind mastery is also really strong, as it buffs your passive, your W, and your ultimate. Itemizing with Trundle is pretty straightforward. He has a lot of built-in damage, enough that just one damage item is typically enough to last you the game. The rest you can spend on defenses, making you harder to kill than a cockroach. To start in lane, begin with either Adorn's Shield or Adorn's Blade, depending on how aggressive you'd like to be. In the jungle, begin with a Hunter's Machete, which you can turn at your leisure into a Spirit of the Ancient Golem. For that one damage item, choose either a Blade of the Ruined King, a Ravenous Hydra, or a Trinity Force. The Blade will give you tremendous dueling power against even the tankiest targets, and, combined with Frozen Domain, will let you beat down a turret in mere seconds. The Ravenous Hydra has the benefit of being nearly as useful in its early form of Tiamat, and only getting stronger as it goes. It'll grant you some fantastic wave clear that he otherwise lacks, some super useful regeneration, and never count out the collateral damage. Killing minions incidentally in a fight will give Trundle surprising sustain. Trinity Force is the most rounded of the three, giving amazing sticking power more than anything else, as well as some fantastic damage from the Spellblade ability. For your boots, get something defensive, either Mercury Treads or Ninja Tabi if the enemy is heavy on the attack damage. Beyond that, anything and everything defensive is awesome, but there are a few standouts. Spirit Visage, just like the second Wind Mastery, works extremely well with his kit. Randuin's Omen gives him a fantastic slow for yet more crowd control. Locket of the Iron Solari is a fantastic choice against a heavily AP team, and of course, Guardian Angel is the ultimate in staying alive. Other nice defensive picks include Banshee's Veil, Warmog's Armor, Frozen Heart, and Sunfire Cape. If you're having trouble keeping up with enemies, try Frozen Mallet or Iceborne Gauntlet. If you really need more damage, a Last Whisper will let you punch through heavily armored teams, and Yomu's Ghostblade will grant penetration as well as a nice burst of speed. Trundle is a huge bully, especially in the early game. Between just the level 1 version of Q and W, Trundle gains nearly 3,000 gold worth of stats against his opponent. There are very few champions who can stand up to Trundle in a one-on-one fight, especially not ones who rely on the attack damage he steals from them. This allows you to be extremely aggressive, especially in the jungle. Take Q, W, and E on your first 3 levels and start roaming. Gank, invade the enemy jungle, steal their stuff, Find them and club them upside the head. What are they gonna do? You're the king of trolls. Placing your frozen domain is very important, especially in a fight. More than half the stats I mentioned you gaining rely on you standing within that zone. If you leave it, you'll become significantly weaker, albeit still a very tanky troll. Remember that it is not impeded by walls, so you can place it enough to cover a corner you'll have to round in a fight. Heck, placing the domain might be enough to scare some opponents off. The speed buff can, in the same way, give you a lot of escaping power, giving you a boost one way and back the other. Proper, precise placement of your pillar is also key. It is wide enough that it can actually block off certain corridors of the jungle, and if you're really good, you can literally pin them to a wall, making it impossible for them to move. It's still quite useful in an open lane too, and not only by way of slowing. It resets the AI's pathing and forces the champion to go around it instead of straight. Just be careful, cause it's terrain for your allies too. You can help them escape just as easily as lock them in alone with the enemy team. Subjugate is on a fairly short cooldown for an ultimate, so don't be afraid to use it as harassment or simple sustain in lane. If you're dueling, be sure to use it at the beginning of the fight, so that you have as much sustain as possible throughout. If the target has their stats boosted, you'll gain and drain an amount based on the boosted stats, even if the boost ends before Subjugate does. In that way, Subjugate can end up draining way more than the 40% it says it does. This works particularly well against targets like Rammus, Leona, Galio, and Jax. Note that as soon as the target is dead, Trundle will begin gradually losing the buff, so if you're in a big team fight, you should probably put Subjugate on someone your team is not focusing down. Fortunately, the big damage dealers are usually not the ones with all the defenses, so you can safely sap the tank while you charge the marksman. In the late game, Trundle can take a number of different roles. Split Pusher with Ravenous Hydra or Blade of the Ruined King is one of my favorites. In teamfights, he can either be disrupting the enemy team by diving their carries with more sustain than almost anyone, or busily protecting his own with slows, a pillar, and of course, a club. Trundle is a troll of the highest caliber. Place your pillars and club your opponents, and you'll lead your team to victory. So, thanks for watching everyone. If you've enjoyed this guide, please let me know by hitting the like button. Speak up in the comments below if you have advice or questions. We're all here to learn. Subscribe for future stuff like guides, gameplay, and general silliness. Follow me on Twitch for streams and Twitter and Facebook to see what else is going on. Till next time, I've been Gin, and you've been watching me talk about a video game. Now, get out of the way!
King of Trolls coming through!